Everyone continues to bet against Kyle Whittingham, the Utah Utes. We heard it all week long. Utah didn't have a chance. USC this, USC that. And as usual, when you bet against Utah, it's not a good business to be in because Kyle Whittingham and the Utah Utes reminded us in Kevin Garnett fashion that anything is possible.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen every single day. We are available on all platforms, including YouTube and wherever you may get your podcast. If this is your first time tuning into our show, make sure you guys like and subscribe. I'd love to interact with you guys in the YouTube comments, as well as on social media. You can follow our show at Locked On Utes or my personal handle at JT Wistrcill. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. On today's show, we are going to be talking about Utah's glorious upset victory against USC. I heard some people say it's not an upset. I mean, everyone picked USC to win this game. Whenever you go on the road to a team that a top 20 team in college football, especially like unless you're like 10 spots higher than them, for the most part, I consider that an upset. And just even like think about going into the season. Like who would have thought Utah would win this game without Cam Rousing? I know I sure didn't. Even though I picked you like in the beginning of the season, I picked Utah to win this game. I did, but even that, it was like just trying to. It just seemed like it was gonna be a monumental task, right? I thought Utah could win this game, but man, to just see it actually play out that way is incredible. I'm still in shock. I can't sleep. That's why I'm up doing this right now with you guys, because it was just one of those games that reminds you like why we love college football and why we love our team so much. The moments and just the plays and just the highs and lows, the emotions of the game. I truly believe there's nothing like sports when it comes to those emotions and just the craziness that can happen and living and dying by every play. It is just such a magical experience. Watch it whenever your team plays a special game like that, like a really memorable game, similar to Utah versus USC in the regular season last year when your team wins Pac-12 championship games. Like that was a special win. We'll talk about. I have a little bit of thing. I'm going to tie this actually into why I think this win was extra special to the unfortunate news about Cam, Brant, and Lander. We're going to talk about that at the second segment. But first, just want to focus on this game. And what an incredible game it was. I mean, I think the first thing I want to say, and there's probably other like player of the games you would go with first. And that's what we'll be talking about tomorrow on Locked On Utes more too. But man, Sione Vaki, I mean, for him to be doing what he's doing, offense, like rushing wise, 9 carries for 68 yards. But so last week led Utah on the ground, had over 150 yards on the ground for Utah, 2 touchdowns. This week has 5 receptions for 149 yards and 2 touchdowns. The wheel routes were devastating out of the backfield. And credit to, I don't know if that was just something that Andy Ludwig identified. I don't know if that was just Bryson being like, oh yeah, Sione's going to keep beating these guys. Obviously, it's a huge credit to Sione. I mean, what Sione's doing right now is unreal. And it's just like last year, like Jaquindon Jackson came in and was a really good running back for this Utah team. Sione to throw up these kind of numbers in back-to-back games is just for, once again, we heard about the packages a little bit just from the terms of like when we saw him against Oregon State, but who knows how long this has been something that Utah has been looking for with Sione. But just for him to come in and just shine this much offensively, whether it is creating separation, his comfort in between the tackles, how many running backs, maybe it's a few more than I'm thinking, but even that, I don't even know. I just don't know a lot of people who could have scored the second touchdown he scored on. You just have to be such an unreal athlete. He had another run too, where he bounced, where he was just trying to get the edge. Like every other running back, most running backs would never have gotten the edge on the play. The defensive lineman easily had the angle, and he finds a way to get the edge. So Sione Vaki, just incredible. I thought the broadcast team was exceptional tonight. They brought up like Sione Vaki like represents Utah football, and he really does. Just the resiliency, all the things that he was able to do. You know, Sione's still doing his thing on defense a little bit too. So just a two-way superstar in college football. And I have not watched every Colorado game, but man, I might be ready to start the best two-way football player, best two-way college football player is Sione Vaki, because I think he's that exceptional. I think defensively he's elite, and offensively, I mean, the receiving game is there now for him, and we know the running game is there for him based on last week. So just incredible stuff from Sione. Moving on from him, because he was unreal. How about Bryson Barnes? I mean, just someone that has taken just so much crap. I mean, even for myself included. I think after the Baylor game, I said like Utah can't do this going forward. Like, and obviously Utah felt that way too. They did make the change to Nate Johnson. It just seemed like Bryson didn't give this team the best chance to win. Looking at back at the Baylor game, and man, how wrong were we and everyone else? Because look at Bryson Barnes going into the Colosseum and leading this team to a victory. I still stand by some of the stuff I've said about him being a game manager, but you just can't measure hearts. And Bryson has got heart. What a gutsy performance. Made a couple of really big time throws just throughout the game. This is probably the best game he's played as a Ute. I know, like the Rose Bowl drive itself, and but 235 yards. He had 3 touchdowns through the air, ran in another one too, and just that late game situation, just the 26-yard run. Maybe I wasn't even a third down, but it was like whatever it was, 2nd and 15. Like Utah just needed something there. And for him to recognize, and he's such a fearless runner, he got beat up so many times throughout the game. But for him to recognize that he had an opportunity there to take off and churn out those tough yards, it was just remarkable. I mean, just a gutsy performance, a great decision by him there. A couple of tough runs. Made some nice passes too. Threw some great balls to Sione, like to put him in a position. The first wheel route was perfect. Just throw it out there, let your guy run under it, and let's see what happens there. So impressed with Bryson's ability to lead this offense and what he was able to do throughout this game. Elsewhere, nice to see just a couple other guys making plays, like a Landon King finding the end zone again. Devon Vele, I was glad to see him get a couple more catches in this one, because I still think just someone that I really feel bad for, because he obviously came back thinking he was going to be plagued with a Cam Rising, like a top 10 caliber quarterback. And even when Bryson plays really well, just his skill sets aren't always the most utilized. But obviously they don't care. No one in Utah cares about their usage right now. They're just fired up after this win. And then the defense does their thing again. Utah got gashed a little bit early by the Trojans, kind of like they did last year, the first half when they played them. But just like when they met USC in the Pac-12 championship game, in the second and third quarters combined of the Pac-12 championship game, Utah held USC to just 3 points. They did that again on Saturday night. Morgan Scalley and his defense always dialed in, whether it's the timely blitzes, there was some coverage sacks, just genuine sacks too. How good is Jonah Ellis? I mean, just every week when you watch Jonah Ellis play, just the best pass rusher in college football right now. I know the other guy might have a couple more sacks. Jonah Ellis is going against harder competition, so I'm going to say Jonah Ellis is the best pass rusher in college football right now. Great to see Cole Bishop come back in. How about Van Fillinger forcing that fumble? The big 2-point conversion, Lander Barton blew it up, and that was one that that Utah really just needed those plays in those moments, and they got him. I mean, definitely some stuff that looking at, like the special teams touchdowns, Bryson's pick 6. Like there's definitely stuff like Utah will want to clean up and do better going forward, just as every game. But how can you not just sit and reflect and be like, that was incredible? The gutsiness of this team. This is why we love this Utah football team. It's because they get performances like this, where it's just a slugfest and they find a way to out-tough the opposition and come out on top. So fun to watch this game. We are not done talking about it. We'll definitely be the focus on upcoming episodes of Locked On Utes this week. We'll doing the film breakdown on Monday, and I'm sure a lot of you guys will be rewatching this one too, because how can you not want to relive such a special performance and a game, a night like that? So we are going to be discussing this game more, as I mentioned, next week. I did not think we'd be doing this at this point in the season, but we have to talk about Cam Rising and Brant Kuithe, and also now Lander Barton, but especially Cam and Brant, just because that's been the whole limbo thing, and a question that has defined everyone, including been the title of many of my podcasts since we do this 5 times a week. It's weird that this is the timing of when the answer was given, but when it is a quarterback of the talent levels of Cam Rising, I think I have to talk about it as soon as possible. So that is what we're going to be discussing, is Cam Rising, Brant Kuithe, and Lander Barton all being ruled out for the season. We're going to be diving into that topic in one moment. But first, I want to talk to you guys about one of the sponsors of today's show in FanDuel Sportsbook. You can snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including the spread, player props, over-unders, and so much more. So make sure you guys go visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's all caps, no spaces, locked on, and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. Alrighty. This is it's just so, it's weird to have it final. A lot of us felt like this is where it was heading, right? I mean, even this is something I'm not acting like this is what I thought was going to happen about Cam and Brant being ruled out, but over the past like kind of 2 weeks, as soon as Cam didn't go out for the Cal game, it kind of felt like this is where we were going to end up at. Kyle Whittingham said that Cam Rising, Brant Kuithe, and Lander Barton, who sustained an injury tonight, will all miss the remainder of the season, or in Cam and Brant's case, just not play this season. It's incredibly just unfortunate in terms of, for us wanting to be this Utah team to be successful, but I'm glad that Cam and Brant are taking care of themselves in terms of, it just doesn't sound like they were going to be healthy or ready to come back. So I'm glad they're not like trying to force their way back and putting their futures at risk, whether that is members of this Utah football program in 2024, which sounds crazy to say, but is definitely possible, or their NFL draft futures. So I think this was the right move for those guys and the right move for Utah football at this point too, just because it would have been just acclimating them and just the health aspect of it. It would have been tough. And then just hate to lose Lander too. I mean, just not just an incredible player, but person who's meant so much to the culture of this team, it seems like. So really feel bad for Lander going out too. But I am a little shocked. Like I said, I mean, I'm just shocked. I can't, if you would have told me like, when would the news come out about Cam and Brant, like, I guess Kyle does reveal, Coach Witt reveals a lot of these injuries, like after they happen, like, or just post game, like Lander Barton, that fits. Like he's done that there's been other Utah players who have gotten like ruled out for a season, and like he'll do that right after a game. But this seemed like a press conference thing that you would just dump. You wouldn't bring this. It's weird to bring it up after you get what very well could end up being your best win of the season. So that's where it's just crazy timing. I'm shocked. Was obviously very excited to see Cam and Brant play this year, and just watching Lander continue to grow was something that's been exceptional this year too. And Lander really showed up tonight too. So just unfortunate for those guys who work so hard to be out there and have to go through these injuries. And then obviously the team and everyone, and we were excited to see them play too. So it's just a tough situation, but glad that they are able to just to make it official. Don't have to deal with any more questions, rest up, get healthy, and go from there for Cam Rising, Brant Kuithe, and Lander Barton. So we'll see what they do. The thing I mentioned earlier that I was going to kind of tie into this is sometimes you guys ever just get like a feeling like when something was special and like you just know that it might not last. Like there's like you want to savor a moment because these kind of moments don't always come there, and sometimes that they can disappear quickly too. I got that little bit of a feeling tonight as I watched Cole Becker make that field goal. I was fired up. I loved it. Fist pumping in my room, everything. But I also after that feeling wore off 20 minutes later, I kind of thought I was like, it just reminds me of one of those feelings of like savor the good times because you don't know what's next. And Utah has, and I even led the show talk about you don't doubt Utah, but Utah has continued to survive and just find ways to win games with all the injuries they've continued to sustain. And it's going to be very hard for them to continue to do so with how the schedule will continue to ramp up and get harder for them. The Oregon team coming to town is better than them. Oregon should beat Utah. USC was supposed to as well, though, and we saw that play out. And Utah's very good at home, so very well could win that game too. Washington is struggling with Arizona State. I think they're going to win, last I checked. But they had their ups and downs, right? But it's just hard to keep predicting Utah to win in these unconventional ways because it's just against the teams that Oregon and Washington are not, for lack of a better word, championship frauds, which pretty clearly USC was when it came to them being a playoff threat since they lost to Utah and now lost to Notre Dame the week before. And losing to Utah is not a terrible thing, but you're at home, reigning Heisman Trophy winner. there's a reason everyone thought USC should win this game, and they should have won this game. But when you broke it down, there were definitely matchups that Utah had the advantage in, like we did on Locked On Utes, and a lot of those did come to fruition. So that was it was a little weird to watch some of that stuff. Like it was just cool, honestly, to watch some of that stuff play out and be like, oh yeah, we talked about that, like that, because all you hear constantly is oh no, Cam Rising, Caleb Williams. So it is that reminder of like, yep, there are other parts to the game of football, and that's where Utah really came in clutch tonight. But the point I was going to make is I think this could end up being like the win of the Utah season. This USC one, it just felt special. The history being 4-0 against them now. And we're going to see memes for years to come, like about how Utah owns USC. And that just, I'm always going to laugh and get excited about those because it's true for recent success here. Look at what Kyle Whittingham has done to Lincoln Riley in these matchups. It's been very impressive and a very loving sight to behold. But yeah, this is just one where I'm like really savor. I think everyone should savor this one. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Utah makes a Pac-12 championship run, but I just feel like 1 to 2 more losses is probably going to happen at some point this season. I just don't understand how this team really just got ravaged by the injury bug, and they continue to find ways to win. But against the best teams, like I mentioned, Oregon, Washington, even at Arizona is going to be a tough one for sure. It feels like Utah's just this stretch they're on could eventually run out a little bit. But to me, this season's because of a win like this. Like, and Utah obviously bowl eligible too. They're 6-1 right now. That's where you have to just give them so much respect, and you can't count them out for a Pac-12 championship game. But just definitely, like I said, this is the win I think everyone should savor because you just don't know what the future holds, and the odds just continue to be stacked against Utah. But even as I say all that, I did start this episode with saying don't doubt Kyle Whittingham, this Utah football program. So that's what's going to make it so much fun to cover this week. And we have a loaded week of Locked On Utes coming up, whether it's the film breakdown of Utah versus USC, previewing Oregon, talking about Cam and Brant's injuries, and even further, and what's next for both of them, and even Lander Barton included in that now too. So that is going to be all week long on Locked On Utes. Thank you guys for tuning into this special episode as the Utah Utes defeated the USC Trojans. And yes, that will never get old to say. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday. And as always, go Utes.